I am so excited for our conversation today with Letty Benavides. Letty, thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Of course, you're welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we have so much to talk about. So, Letty, we have been connected for years online on so good
Mhm.
old social media, and consider you a friend, you're a client, you were in the Speaker Space Academy. I'm so excited for Letty to be talking to us today about building belief. It's really, really powerful to help you on your personal and professional journey. Letty is a writer, a speaker, and a coach in the personal development space. She's passionate about helping others step into the power by building limitless belief that turns doubt into possibility. Ooh, just need like a fire symbol after that statement.
Yeah.
Her own journey's been one of massive learning curves later in life after experiencing some big lows, and credits personal development with giving her a new avenue where she's been able to discover concepts that continue to transform and change her life for the better. So, Letty, I really want to start by just talking. Give us some highlights of your background of what really led you in, because I know getting into the personal development space was so transformative for you.
Mhm.
What led you to that space?
Right. So I was transitioning from working, at a regular job, looking for that new opportunity as my kids were getting older. So I was seeking that next challenge, that next chapter of my story. And as I was doing that, I ran across something on Facebook that caught my attention, and I kind of checked it out. And I wasn't sure if it was the right opportunity for me, but the person who was sharing it really caught my attention. So I kind of dove in and did a little more Google searching on what else he had, and it led me into personal development, which I wasn't even really seeking, and I didn't know it existed in a sense. But that's what led me to discovering it, like taking one step after the other, basically saying yes and then yes and then yes, right? So yes to the person, yes to what I saw him sending me in an email, let's just say, yes to the book offer, for example. I remember receiving his book and feeling a little embarrassed because it was like a title that made me feel embarrassed. Like it was like kind of like a millionaire's mindset or something. And I was like, well, I'm not a millionaire and I'm not seeking to be a millionaire at this point in my life, but I really want to know what this guy's sharing. And so that's kind of like what started the journey. And as I started reading the book, I realized, well, I want a new journal to start like diving into some of these questions that he's kind of putting out there. And it was just a one step after the other of like something that kind of shared some hope that I didn't quite have yet, or something new that looked like maybe I could work towards. And it was just like one thing after the other that just really sparked something inside of me that said, there's something here that I've never experienced before. There's something here that I've never seen people talking about. Or like, for example, working with a coach. I didn't know anybody that had ever worked with a coach. To me, a coach
Mhm.
was the person who coached my son's baseball team. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So the fact that people had coaches was a completely new concept for me. So again, I was running into things that were just surprising me, I guess, and at the same
Mhm.
time, getting me excited about the possibilities. And so I just kept taking
Mhm.
one step after the other, and started working with a coach. And there's so much to the story there, but it took me from a place of at a time. Not only was I seeking a new shift as my kids were getting older in that new chapter, but also things were not going great at the same time. I was having some medical issues I hadn't quite had before. There was tension in my house. My husband and my daughter weren't, getting along the best. And so our relationship was struggling. And I started dealing with some anxiety for the first time in my life. And that was really scary. And so I went from this very hopeful, optimistic, what I felt was a very strong, courageous person to this person that felt a little lost and a little unsure of how things were going to unravel. And it wasn't looking very good. And I just really kind of was stuck, and I didn't know how to shift it back into me feeling like who I am, who I was. It was a hard time for me. So this came in at the most incredible time. I feel like God just like put it on my path. And it was like, this is a solution. Start working on this. And from the get go, it started shifting things in such a positive way. Like, I feel like daily I was learning something new because I was seeking out the learning. I wasn't just sitting there going, like, oh, I learned this. That was good. That was great. Like, okay, how's it going to change my life? I was continuing to seek more things that I could discover that would give me a step that would help things to get better. And the more I did that, the more I saw the changes. But honestly, Julie, from the beginning, I felt such hope and such changes starting to begin happening that I was so excited to share it. So I started writing content. I started doing these like little mini vlogs, is what I call them, on Instagram, because there was something inside of me that just said, you have to pay this forward. Like, if you didn't
Mhm.
know this stuff existed, I mean, how many other people don't know that it exists? And people are sitting there, like I was sitting there, struggling in a hard place, not knowing how to shift out of that hard place. And so that's where I started writing the content, and then eventually doing some moderating and speaking and coaching, and just kind of got into that world by accident in a sense. But as we know, it's not really by accident, but
Mhm.
that's kind of where it started. That's where it started for me about 6 years ago.
And I love this so much. I was jotting down so many notes and like words you were saying because it is so interesting. And I think a lot of us who are now obsessed with personal development came, like, just kind of stumbled upon it.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, when we're seeking something or we feel like we're missing something, like you were saying, you
Mhm.
felt like you were maybe feeling a little bit lost, you had some anxiety, you were feeling stuck. There's personal and professional things going on. And when we're looking for something, then all of a sudden this thing appears. And I remember just feeling like this whole new world was opened up because I always was like a lifelong learner, but more from like a studious perspective or leadership development, like this whole idea of personal development. I think for me, it was when I went to a Tony Robbins event. It's like, poof,
Mhm.
this whole world gets opened. And so I love that you share that because I think that's how a lot of us get into it. And the other really important thing, though, I want to highlight that you said is like saying yes, because what I heard you say is you say yes to being open to learning about it. And then you said yes to like, okay, I'm gonna sign up for this, I'm gonna be a little more curious about this, and then you just kept saying yes, which opened up so much possibility for you.
Yes. I think
Yes.
there's so much that lies on the other side of our yes. I remember journaling about this a lot several years ago because it just kind of hit me, was that on the other side of that yes is where you're going to find those answers, that breakthrough. You know what I mean? But it takes the courage to say yes. Like, if that's not
Mhm.
there, if you don't have enough belief in yourself to at least say yes, even if you do it shaking your boots, as I like to say, and I'm not a cowgirl, I don't have a lot of boots or anything. You know what I mean? But it's that image of like you're shaking in your boots, but you're like, okay, but I'm going
Mhm.
to do it. That leads you to those moments of the
Mhm.
learning, of the growth, of the breakthrough, of the yeah, the transformation that begins to just happen in your life. But you have to be willing to say yes, and you have to be seeking, and you have to be really open. So, yeah.
Yeah, being open. And I love the word of the transformation. And I
Hmm.
really want to talk about this whole idea of building belief because so Letty has been a member of the Speaker Space Academy, helping her to bring all of her amazing experiences and package it into a talk to get it out there to help other people because you've had this huge transformation.
Hmm.
And so when you first started talking about this idea of building belief, oh, it was so powerful. And so I want to talk a little bit about, for those listening, what do you mean when you say building that belief? And what did you have to do to help build your belief?
Hmm. Well, as you know very well in your program, we're working on finding that one thing, that core thing that we really want to share with the world. And that's really challenging because in the world of personal development, there's just a gazillion things you could choose. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
they're all really really important. But as I went through the process in your academy, I realized that the foundation that was really everything I was kind of launching off of was that belief. Like, if I built my belief, if my foundation got deeper, then I could build something even bigger on it. So when you're working towards putting something out into the world, or when you're working on getting that next position or whatever it might be, like I worked in a company where I wanted a position, I never even expressed that I wanted it. And I saw people that were, way younger and way newer with the company get a position that I yearned for because they expressed wanting it. And I was sitting there going like, oh, they'll acknowledge how hard I work. Oh, they're going to see me. Oh, they're going to choose me. And a lot of times we sit in that position of waiting to be chosen, waiting to be seen. And when you're working on yourself and you're learning these things, you kind of come to the realization that um, you need to kind of take that step. Like, just expressing, like this other girl, for example, she just expressed that she was interested. I never even did that, as I probably felt like embarrassed to say like I'm interested in this position, because if what if someone looked and said like, her, why would she be thinking she could have that position, right? So we have all these thoughts, right, that stop us from taking these steps. And at the core of it, it's really the belief in yourself and how deep that belief is that's going to allow you to say that yes, or allow you to not miss out on that thing you wanted, right? So, building belief, I just realized was so important in my journey. And it's not something that just happened overnight. It wasn't a light switch. It wasn't something I did by myself. I had an amazing coach in my corner who honestly had belief for me before I had the belief in the new things I was doing. It's not like I never believed in myself. It's not like I never stepped up to the plate. Like I was the kind of person that felt like I can get anything done. But the
Mhm.
reality was that as I started to become more aware of the areas where I hadn't done these things that I wanted to do or had the courage to take the step, then I had to ask myself, okay, who do I have to become to be able to take that step? How do I do this? Like, I wanted to be more confident. I wanted to have deeper courage, even though I felt some level of those things, right? And my coach was the one kind of saying, you've got this. Like I can see this in you. So he had belief in me before I had it in myself in this new chapter of my life and the things I started to seek. And so having the right person in your corner, whether it's a coach, a mentor, whether it's an amazing online community or an in-person community where you're surrounding yourself with people who are also working on these things, people that get it, people that understand that it's a daily intentional choice to grow and to take these steps that help us to build this belief. And the more it's almost like you just have to combine it with action. Like if there's no
Mhm.
action, everything you do in
Yes.
here is only going to take you so far. Yes, mindset work and all that is wonderful, but it's not going to get you where you want to be in regards to those levels of your clarity in regards to which direction you're going in, that next level courage that you need to really take those steps that feel scary, but are going to lead to something. And then eventually that confidence that gets built, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, none of that's going to happen without you taking those steps before you feel ready. And when you start to kind of take those steps on this path, you will find the answers that are waiting for you that are going to help you, but they're further along on the path. And if you're not taking the steps and going down the path, you're not going to find them. So you have to be willing to take the scary step, basically. And every single one of those builds belief. And then when you combine that belief with your quest for clarity, your quest for courage, your quest for confidence, it's like pixie dust, that makes
Mhm.
something
I
that
love that.
seems impossible become possible. Like it literally is like magic, and it's something that's so essential. And I believe that, like, if you would have said, like, "Oh, do you believe in yourself?" back in the day, I would have been like, "Oh yeah, I believe in myself, of
Yeah.
course." But I was doing something that I felt very comfortable doing that I had been doing for a decade, right? But when you're
Mhm.
stepping into something new, that new role or that dream that you had that you haven't quite gone for yet and you're starting to go for it or whatever it is you're working on that's like new or bigger, like you need those
Mhm.
deeper levels of belief and those deeper levels of all the things I just talked about. And it doesn't just land in your lap. Like you have to be willing to
Mhm.
do the work. And really important, you have to surround yourself with people that are doing the work because you're watching them on their journey, they're watching you on your journey, you're able to contribute while at the same time receiving. And it's just such a beautiful safe space when you're with people that understand the work that you're doing to become that person that could really step into those shoes and do the thing that you want to do with so much confidence.
Oh, there's so many things that I want to highlight for those listening to what you said. First of all, we can just see like your passion and energy when you talk about this. Like if you're listening and you don't have belief in yourself, just listen to Letty and she will help you find that belief. So a couple of key things I heard you say around this belief is you realized that that was the thing. And I love what you just said. It's like every step of action that you took helps you to build that belief. And I think that's a really key thing because so many people can get really hung up and stopped in the learning mode, in the consuming mode. They listen to the podcast, they read the books, they maybe even go to the conferences, but then they stop before they actually start taking the action. They just keep consuming and they're wondering why things aren't changing, right? And so I love that you emphasize that the action needs to be there, and that's how you continue to show up for yourself and build the belief. And then the other thing that you said is obviously, and I know you practice what you're preaching in this sense of surrounding yourself with the people that are going to help you. And I think you said this one time in one of our, coaching calls or conversations that you said that was so powerful, where you said, the people who can be there and support you when your belief starts to waver, and
Mhm.
they might even believe it when you're questioning it or you don't believe it yet, because those are the people that can help support you in those moments.
Yeah, you find your cheerleaders, honestly, in communities like that, and whether you're in a even in the Speaker Space Academy, same thing. You're putting yourself, you're surrounding yourself with people that are seeking something similar, and they're working on those growth steps, right? But yeah, I think it's really important that you don't do this journey alone. Whatever route you choose. I mean, if anything, choose them all if you can. I mean, the more the better. I've had a coach pretty much in the last 6 years. I would say at least 50% of that time I've been working with a coach or a paid mentorship group where I'm in there with other women that are also, and that's the things you start to see that you're not alone. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we could feel so alone in these feelings, right? Like, well,
Mm-hmm.
why do I struggle with this? Or why am I wanting to do this thing that I want so much, but I'm not taking the steps and I know I should be taking them? Why? And then you surround yourself with people who are struggling with similar things and you feel like, okay, A, I'm not alone with in this. It's normal. And B, what can I do to shift this? Then you start seeing those little keys, these little key tips or whatever that you can then take. And the key is taking it, the tip, and doing something with it, and people feel sometimes like they can't do something until they have the confidence. But the reality is that you don't get the confidence unless you're doing the thing, and you have to work on building it, and you have to do the scary thing. I like to kind of think about it, and the way I feel, all honestly, when I take a courageous step and I'm on the other side of it, I've kind of tackled that fear for the moment. Like I feel like I'm just doing a happy dance because it feels
Mm-hmm.
so amazing to know that I did it, even though it
Mm-hmm.
scared me. It could scare me a lot, and I take the choice to do it, and then all of a sudden I get to feel the accomplishment. I get to feel the triumph. And think about those feelings internally. If you continuously do this type of stuff, how it builds upon itself and builds and builds and builds. And in a sense, it's deepening your belief in yourself, which allows you to take bigger steps. It allows you to shift, the thoughts that are in your mind, those doubts that are coming in. And like I like to say, turning that doubt into possibility. It comes from a daily intentionality to want to be that person, to become that person that can X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that you're going for.
And I love that idea too of becoming that, who do you want to become? Who do you need to surround yourself with? What do you need to believe to become that person? And another key thing that I really want to emphasize, you said before, is this whole idea of we need to be able to speak up and ask for it. I
Oh
think that
yeah.
was a really powerful example that you shared about when you were, working at a place, and
Hmm.
we sometimes can feel almost like the victim or the effect of like other people getting things that we want,
Hmm.
and that awareness to go, well, sometimes those people are asking for it,
Hmm.
or they're being vocal about it, and just have that self-awareness to go, I never even said I want it. And I think that does come down to the self-doubt, right?
Sure.
The inner voice that we're saying to ourselves. And so I think that's a huge thing that you said of like, instead of waiting to always be chosen,
Hmm.
like what if you put yourself in the position to like go for it, like grab it, like take it.
Absolutely. And that's you feeling empowered in a sense, right? That's you stepping into the thing you want, not waiting for someone to give it to you. And I don't think that we necessarily always realize that we're doing that. We might
Mm-hmm.
just feel like this is such a natural progress. Well, I just have to wait my turn, or I just need to do enough to be seen. I need to put enough years in for to be considered for X, Y, and Z, right? So, you know, I'm not a football person. I can't tell you play offense, play defense. But you know what I'm getting at, right? Like you have
Yeah.
to position yourself to where you're not always waiting or assuming. Assumptions can
Mm-hmm.
really hold us back as well. Assuming that you need this much time in this company to actually, go for this position, or assuming that you need certain things in place to start that business that you have in your heart, or to become that coach that you think you'd like to be. Like, you don't have to be at any certain place to do anything. You just have to make a decision that you're willing to take the step. And
Mhm.
just in making that decision, you're already growing in your belief. You're already strengthening
Yes.
that
Yeah.
confidence, right? You're already getting to those next levels of courage that are going to continue to build
Hmm.
until we're not here anymore. Like it's not like it's ever going to be fully done. There's not too much growth that you can experience. There's not too much courage or confidence that you can gain. Like it's an ongoing process, and it's so beautiful because once you get those deeper levels of being super clear about what you want to do, having the courage to take the steps and then building that confidence to make you really feel like you can do it, you just move differently in life. You make decisions differently, and you get to the point where you realize that your thoughts are really impacting your feelings, and that's impacting your decisions. And so you're way more aware of what's going on in your mind, and you're way more intentional about kind of shifting the thought when it gets there. Not that that's a perfect process, but you're aware that it's happening. And so you have more power in the fact that you can stop it. You can nip it in the bud. You
Hmm.
can nip it in the bud because you're sitting there almost like you're on guard, right? You're on guard, you're watching for it. You know that's going to come in. And then when it does, you're ready for it. You're like, oh, yeah, that thought, that's the one. That's completely going to throw me off my game here if I don't do something about it. What is it that I can do about it? What's a question I can ask myself that's going to help me to get an answer that's going to help me? What's something that I can remind myself that I already did, that I've already conquered, that can give me that little bit of confidence that I need in this moment? Like it's all about every single step you're taking that's going to add up to that
Hmm.
success that you're looking for.
And I mean, like, that's such a big point that you just made before around when you just make the decision,
Mhm,
like when you decide and then you take an action,
mhm,
that can build up so much of that belief. Even just like deciding that you're going to do it. And sometimes that was like the biggest hindrance. And then once you make the decision, all of a sudden now you're rolling, right? Like
yeah.
momentum's going and you're taking more action. But sometimes it's just like making that decision that's the biggest stop. So I love that you emphasize that it's like sometimes just making that decision
Yes.
builds the belief that, like, okay, I can be the person that decides to do this, that
Mhm,
decides to go after it. So if somebody is listening right now, Letty, and they're thinking like, okay, I love this, like I have this big decision I'm trying to make. I have
mhm.
this big, scary thing that I want to do, but I don't really have the belief yet. Like, I don't really know that I believe that I can do it. So, you shared a couple tips with us, but what would you say to them right now that they could take as their kind of baby steps to help them build the belief in themselves?
That's a really great question. I mean, I was so fortunate to have someone in my corner right at the beginning of my journey. So, if you're not able to work with a coach, I would say if you can work with a coach, like don't hesitate. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not an expense, it's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your dream in a sense, and in what it is that you want to do. Even if you don't feel ready to do it right now, you still need to become the person that can make that dream happen. So I would say if you can, work with an amazing coach. If you can't, find a mentor. And I know that sounds really daunting when you don't even know how to find a mentor. But like for me, I would just allow people to be my mentors that didn't even know me when I wasn't able to have a mentor technically. Like a podcast host, for example, that really inspired me, that shared things that were really powerful. Like those type of people became my mentors. So I was looking and seeking for people that were doing really great things, that were talking about strategies as to how they were able to do those good things, and that were helping me to grow. So find people that help you to grow. Find content. I like to call it scrolling with a purpose. So when I'm on my
Yeah.
phone, I scroll with a purpose. I'm looking for that content that's really
Mhm.
speaking to me. That person that's putting out information that's going to give me something in that moment. I remember scrolling through Instagram at one point and finding a coach, and she put out something so simple, but it really shifted the way I did something in that moment. And it always stuck with me. And it was as simple as, um, when you think you can't do something and that thought comes in, like, I can't do this thing. For me, it was more like, there's no way I can do that thing. Like, I was really
Mhm.
like, there's just no way I could do it. There's no way I couldn't see a path forward. Her simple tip of saying, don't allow that to sit there. Ask yourself the question, how can I do this? And just take one step. And so
Love that.
I didn't even believe it could work, but
Hmm.
because she said it in a way that caught my attention, I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to take her advice and I'm just going to do this, even though I don't believe it's going to work. So it's almost like you can take a step without even truly believing it's going to happen, but you have to put your faith and trust in the people that are sharing this message that have already experienced this shifting something, and just have enough belief to just take the step. So I took the step, and long story short, like in a movie scene where you're here and then you're here, I got to do the thing, okay? Because I
So
asked
cool.
myself the question and I took the simplest step you can imagine, and that led me closer to what I wanted to do. So I would say find amazing content out there that's going to touch your life. Seek it out. Let it like soak it in, like take the action steps. Journal, write. There's so much that comes out of us, and all of a sudden things start to make a little sense, or a little something will come out onto the paper. And I'm not someone that journals every single day religiously, but I find
Mhm.
that when I stop to journal and I really do enjoy it, it's worth my time in a sense that I'm investing in journaling, because breakthroughs happen in those moments, in that writing. You know, what's going on in your mind as you're putting pen to paper. So those are some of the steps that you can take. And if you have the opportunity to plug into like a really great online community with other people that are growing, a lot of them are like personal slash professional development. You might be
Mhm.
investing a little something, but that's one of the things that I did that really started to shift my growth journey, was paying that $40 a month to be in
Mhm.
this community. And yes, plugging into the Zooms they had once a week and listening to the
Mhm.
guest speakers, and then like challenging myself to be brave enough to click the little button on the Zoom saying like, I want to speak or share something. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, like for me back then, that was so huge. You don't even
Mhm.
understand, but I understood the concept that if I got uncomfortable, growth was going to happen. So I sought out those moments of how can I be uncomfortable? It feels really uncomfortable to click this button. And that might sound so crazy to people that have no issue with it. But I mean, we all struggle with different things, right?
Mhm.
So it was a challenge. If I press the button and say, raise your hand to speak, guess what? I'm going to have to speak. I'm going to have to share something. I'm going
Mhm.
to have to ask the question. And every little step, that as tiny as that may seem, is leading to your growth. It's leading to you building that belief that's really foundational for everything else that you're trying to do in your life and on your journey. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Thank you. Those are so many great tangible tips. And for those of you who might need to like go back and re-listen to those, because you just shared so many great things that people could do depending upon where they're at and what resources that they have. There's one, two, three, four things that those of you listening could do from that list that Letty just shared to take that action. And I love that part of getting yourself uncomfortable. Like you knew if you got uncomfortable, that growth was going to happen. And so you have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to ask for the help, to do the thing, to be the new learner. And all of those steps build the belief. So this is so inspiring. I hope all of you listening have so many takeaways around belief. And hopefully you even have something that you're thinking about right now, whether it's small or something really big that you're like, wow, maybe I could think about that differently. What do I need to do to build this belief in myself? And Letty, one of the last questions I love to ask guests is the name of the podcast is It Starts With You. And so, in a few words, what does It Starts With You mean to you?
Oh my goodness. I ran across something early on in my growth journey that was sharing that, like, it's almost like a 90% of what happens. Oh gosh, I wish I knew how to, if I could remember this, it'd be so powerful. But basically, it shifted me into understanding that the way that I'm going to change my life is how I choose to respond, how I choose to act, what I choose to do. So the point of that thing that I ran across was like not to be in victim mode, not to think of it as what like the world is, what's happening to you, for example, right? It's truly happening for you. We just don't understand that or know that until we actually begin to really believe that it's happening for us, right? So it starts with you. It starts with your daily choices. It starts with you and what you do with your morning. I mean, when I
Mhm.
started practicing gratitude in the morning, it was one of those things that was shared, and I was like, oh, I can't imagine how that would make an impact. Well, guess what? 6 years straight of starting my morning with gratitude, as I like to think about the previous day and what am I grateful for that happened yesterday. And I could really reflect and be like, wow, there's so much that happened that I could be grateful for. Starting my morning like that, as opposed to grabbing my
Mhm.
phone, checking my emails or getting onto social and, starting my day that way, letting those things come into my life right away instead of just beginning with a beautiful practice of gratitude that shifts things that you would never imagine could shift because it's just building upon building upon building the fact that gratitude is just so deep inside of you. So really it starts with you and how you choose to do things, whether you hear something and choose to take action or not. So it's about stopping the blame in a sense of what's
Mhm.
happening in this world. Oh, that those curveballs that keep coming. Oh, this or that. And just beginning with you and what can I do today to be at 1% better? What can I do today to repair this relationship that's not going well? What can I do? Not waiting for that person to do the thing. What can I do today? Even if it's a tiny little thing and I don't even feel like doing it because I'm
Mhm.
upset with this person, let's just say. But
Mhm.
guess what? I have that belief in myself. I know that I'm growing. I know that I'm challenging myself to do the uncomfortable things because it's going to lead to something good. So I'm going to do this thing, even though I may not feel like it, because I know that it's going to lead to something good and positive. So it's
Mhm.
all the choices we make, it's all the decisions, right? And all those action steps. So I love the name of your podcast. The minute I heard it, I was like, oh, so amazing because it truly does start with us. So good job on picking an amazing name for your podcast. And we could keep talking about
Oh,
this for a long time
thank
because it
you.
starts with you,
I
right?
know. Yeah, thank you so much. And that was so many great points. And I love too you just sharing like we get to choose. So it's taking ownership of how we're showing up. And
Mhm.
fellow gratitude journaler in the morning, also been
Yeah.
doing it for years and years. And I've talked about it on the podcast so many times how it is intentionally setting how you want to seek out things throughout the day. And when you
Mhm.
wake up with gratitude, you're more likely to seek out more things to be grateful for throughout the day.
Absolutely.
So Letty, thank you for joining us and for helping us all to build more belief in ourselves. Where can people find you and stay connected with you after they listen to this episode?
Oh my goodness, I'm all about connection, connecting with great people. So on Instagram primarily, and you can find me at letty.joy, letty.joy. Send me a DM. Let me know you heard the podcast. Let's get into a good conversation. And then, of course, on LinkedIn with just Letty Benavides, which I'm sure my name will be on the podcast. I've
Mhm.
done some content on there. I'll probably do a little bit more, but those are the two primary places to find me. And Instagram is really where I pour my heart out into my content and sharing stories and just connecting with people that are wanting to grow. So
Amazing. And we'll make sure that we drop those in the show notes as well. Letty, thank you so much again for joining us. And everyone listening, remember to just take those little steps to help you, to really help you build that belief in yourself. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you, Julie.